We have arrived and we are still learning. Many of our creatives don't often do paperwork, which ends up biting them later on in their careers. At MOTI, we have invited Palesa Dwaba, founder of Dwaba Attorneys, to walk us through some of the important paperwork and documents or agreements that should be looked at and signed off when you're making music.
Hi everyone, my name is Palesa Dwaba and I'm the director and sole practitioner of Dwaba Attorneys Inc. I've always known that I was going to be an entertainment attorney. It just never made sense to me that we listen to artists all year round and for a huge part of our lives, only for us to find out that they died penniless. So with everything that you have in your own, the rights that you have, they're your personal rights to use and exploit the thing, and then the rights that you have against the next person that they don't still exploit or use something without your permission. I have the right to use my cell phone. If someone uses it without my permission or keeps it, that's theft. When it's a corporal thing, such as a phone, it's easy to understand. However, an idea, lyrics, the way you create a beat, and things like that, those are concepts. They come from your mind, but you also have rights to that. Those are incorporeal rights. So the concept of copyright is basically as simple as that. In South Africa, you don't have to register copyrights. By virtue of bringing something into existence that didn't exist before, you own it. It's great when we're all in the studio and we're having fun, but the second it becomes a hit, now there's problems. It's advisable to have something called a split sheet, where everyone writes for their contribution. Then at least there's a record that you can then include in an agreement. Contracts create certainty, and certainty creates protection. If it would become a legal fight between you and another party, it's not about what happened, it's about what you can prove. So you now created the song and you realize that it has to be tweaked, masked, and mastered. You get a person that you know or someone who has a good reputation as a great producer. The first thing you need to do is enter into a producer agreement with that person. If a person who has more of a reputation than you then comes back and says, no, that's not your song, that's mine, then there's really very little that you can do. A lot of people, because they start music off with their friends, they one day decide that the one friend is going to manage the other. And at the end of the day, we make 100,000 Rand on it, for example, and your friend says, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have these bookings. So I want 50%, not really free. So number two thing, the second thing that I would suggest is an artist management agreement, should you be leaning that way. It's not always that just because you contributed to a song or just because you played an instrument to a song or played a part in its creation. It doesn't always happen that you would be entitled to the revenue that then comes later. We have, for example, writing camps, where everyone is paid a fee and you sit and you write the song, and that is the last time you'll ever have any claim to the creation of that song. That also plays a part in if you're playing an instrument, we pay you for that session, and that's the end of it. Those are what we call session artist agreements, where you understand that you're performing a service and strictly for this, that you forfeit any benefit or royalty or revenue that could later accrue off the selling and exploiting of what you helped create. The thing about copyrights is that the author isn't always the owner. So you guys will see as we're going into discussing other contracts, you see that in quite a number of these instances, artists transfer their copyright to another entity and then they earn royalties in return. Now, if you don't want to have several agreements with different people, you don't want to have a publisher agreement with this person, a digital person with that person, you could then find yourself with a record label agreement. Record label agreements is when there is this entity that already has all the resources and they are agreeing to market you, your music, book your performances, gives other opportunities for you to collaborate with other artists, with brands, etc., etc. A problem then with a record label, or what people find to be the bone of contention, is that with that much access that is provided to you, your cut is going to be significantly lesser than what you would have gotten had you had several smaller agreements with separate entities. In a lot of instances, a record label would say they're entitled to, for example, 50% of everything you get. Doesn't matter how it came about. You know that they're entitled to 50% of everything you get, which is fair if it's a huge label, because you would have never gotten there that fast without their backing and their muscle. However, if you create a hit song with another artist, already 50% of that song is gone. And then you and the other artist would then have to then also agree on how you're splitting the remaining 50%. There are also producers and songwriters and other parties that could have participated in the creation of the song. So you see that 50% just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. There's also a co-publishing agreement. Two great stars established in their own rights, but signed on to different labels, would have to then agree on how they speak, because it's a feature song for your label, but it's also a feature song for mine. So then we would have to agree on how our respective publishers are basically going to benefit from that and how we're going to find a way to make money. What DSPs have done, however, is create a way for a lot more artists to get their music out there without having to tie themselves to a record label. Because unfortunately, record labels give you huge loans that you might not ever be able to pay back. And that's why we're figuring out why a lot of artists are dying broke, because they service in that debt for the rest of their lives.
MOTI.